Hello and welcome to this CGTN special program, Media Discourse in Transformation, Diversity, Inclusivity, Exchange. Global media is undergoing a profound shift. Once dominated by Western narrative, today's landscape is being reshaped by technology, multipolarity, and the rise of the global South. As nations seek to amplify their voices and overcome bias, new tools like AI are transforming how stories are told. So, where does global public opinion stand today? How should the media adapt? Can we build a more diverse, inclusive, and balanced media ecosystem? To answer these important questions, I'm glad to be joined by Nat Pyakchwa, Minister of Information of Cambodia, and Curtin Bana, Director of the Diplomatic Society in South Africa, and Holger Friedrich, publisher of the Berliner Zeitung, biggest independent newspaper in Germany, and Tapcha Se-yom, Thai PBS Executive Advisor. Welcome to this CGTN special program. Well, Minister, I will start with you. As we said, it usually used to be dominated by the Western developed nations in terms of the media, public opinion, but also we are seeing the rise of the global South, the developing nations. So are we seeing, say, the start of the change or the beginning of the change in terms of global public opinion?
Yes, of course, since long time already, the Western media lead the narrative in the world. But now I see the change with the global South media, for example, CGTN from India or the other media outlet that appear in the media landscape that lead also the news and give a quiet change to see a bit balance between the Western voice and the global South voice. And I see this change with the new media. Also, you have the Western social media, for example, Facebook or Twitter. But now you have also TikTok and the other media outlet that can shape also the narrative in the global South country. And I think that this is a new start. And I see in the future could also check and balance between the Western voice and also the global South voice. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, a more balanced probably, and it used to be the case. Voices from developing countries are marginalized at best, or ignored at worst, Mr. Bana. So things are starting to change, and also at the same time, you do, especially social media, you see this arithmetic because of this algorithm. Rather, it is designed to amplify to maximize the engagement probably, but somehow it also creates the challenge of so-called echo chambers. People are aligned often with the content, probably like-minded content rather than different opinions, right? How do you see this kind of challenge too? Well, we are bringing people together, but somehow we are dividing people into different tribes.
Thank you for that, Mr. Xu. It's really an honor to be in the land of Confucius, in Shuhu. Someone that I've heard of all my life, and some of his words ring true for me. He's a great philosopher, great thought leader. And, it's important, as the minister pointed out, to speak about balance. Being in China, the yin and yang is always something about balance and harmony. And, this is the importance in media. Media, as I see it, is probably we as human beings, as living intelligence, compared to artificial intelligence, play as human beings. Our interaction with the environment is so at such an advanced level that balance in what we do is important. Speaking about the social media, initially I feel, yes, there was a way that social media had a big influence. We look at what happened with the Arab Spring in North Africa. But today, and when I look at the youngsters, I look at my own family, my own children, they are not so spontaneous in responding to what's coming up on social media. They have access, so they look at 4, 5, 8 different sources where the information is coming from. Mm-hmm. So, with media, it's development, transformation is key, and it will always be with us. So with social media, I feel like the yin and the yang. You're going to have the good, you're going to have the bad. It's how we find the harmony and the balance.
Yeah, it's how we find the harmony. Friedrich, you are leading this biggest independent newspaper in Germany. I guess, if you look at the media, probably part of the important role is communication, bring people together or increase understanding, decrease misunderstanding, right? Or trust. So are you seeing we are making progress with today's, with the rise of the global south, with technology, multipolarization?
From my perspective, we have 5,000 years civil development on the global perspective. Yeah? Some of the development starts here around by. And all this communication was part in the organization of social societies. And the modern form, since the Enlightenment, also in the last 250 years, media has to decide, supports on one hand the administration, the power, and then it's a tool of repression and more or less propaganda, or it helps to control the administration and the power in a more or less free way, because power without control is more or less nothing. Yeah? And on this point, media have a lot of responsibility to support a positive way of development in social societies. Mm-hmm. Coming back to this point and to your question, I think as leaders in the media industry, independent in which angle on the world we're working, we have to take over this responsibility by our own and for our colleagues and for the civil society, and given the development and the positive development around the world, this is new balanced situations that we help to translate different perspectives. Especially from the Western perspective, there are a lot of difficulties to accept that the global south starts this race in a new type of race, and the results are more or less positive. Mm-hmm. Sooner or later as well for the Western perspective. And coming back to the technology development and to use new technologies as a tool for communication, there we need some additional frameworks, some new rules, and we have to negotiate this rules between the global south and the Western part. And this negotiation, from my point of view, starts right now, and it's not the end.
Mm-hmm. When we look at talked about this change, or for like Western nations to start to accept the rise of the global south, or more voices being heard from the global south, or with the progress in social media, different voices are being heard. I want to say, ask Chacha this question about, do you see this? We talked about this. This is the start of the change. Diversity, different voices are being heard, and probably, hopefully, we can reach a more balanced, media ecosystem where you hear different voices on rather balanced way, so get people better informed.
Okay. I still remember my early days in this business, many years back, and every time you try to look for information on international or major issues, you only came across, news report coverage by this handful of major news organizations in the West, right? But today, I have a daily current affairs programs that covers international issues. It's my duty now is to scan very, very closely all the news websites of major media organizations around the world, to get their viewpoints, their analysis on major issues affecting the world. And now I have a diverse sources of information, viewpoints, analysis, opinions, things like that. So now I can say that with this rise, because of the technological advances, I mean, countries that once in the past were ignored or were not on the media map of the world are now making their voices heard. So if you want to talk about issues that affecting the international issues, then you can have access to sources of information and views that are different from those presented by agencies in the Western world. Mm-hmm. So in short, I mean, we have a more balanced, more diverse accessibility to information that will help us as journalists, I mean, to give a more balanced and comprehensive pictures of things that are of importance to societies.
Do we or should we support more platforms, media platforms, social media platforms from the developing world, from the global south? Like TikTok, if you take a look at the coverage of the Palestinian issue, for example, Gaza, it's more stories of different of a variety of stories. It's open in terms of opinions, a bit different from, say, the mainstream Western media coverage of what's going on in Gaza. And so shall we welcome more platforms like TikTok?
We're talking about the code ethic of journalism. Mm-hmm. What we want is the reality. But the world now is spoiled by the fake news or sometimes the exaggeration of the event. It's not something that is original one. Mm-hmm. What we heard, what we see, sometimes is not reflect the reality. The reporting from one place to the other place is depend on the tendency of the media. According to the journalism, the journalists have no political independent editorial. Mm-hmm. We need to have this kind of the practice. But the journalists themselves, that they write the article, they has been influenced.
They have an opinion, right?
Yes. Even in the practice, in the theory, right, journalists cannot integrate their public, their personal opinion in the article. But in their reality, they influence his opinion or her opinion in the article.
Yes.
So that's why I insist on the role of the social media, mm-hmm, that the people themselves, now they start to check and balance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just to come in with the minister, I agree fully with that. An education of how to read the media. Mm-hmm. Because from all the information that you gather, we have to understand how the media is comprehended, how people are reading the news and what, because you can read something and you get a different understanding. Minister can read the same thing, and his comprehension of it will be different. Of course. So how do we use, as a social media platform, all the media platforms, how do we use the responses that we are getting to understand what the comprehension is out there to the audience? What are they comprehending? Mm-hmm. Are we, and this is a great thing for us as media practitioners, to see what the reader is understanding by what we're saying. Are they getting the message that we're putting out there? Or are they getting some total different message? Yeah. And I think this is important with regards to social media, the technology that we have access to.
But Frederick, if you look at the global media scene, the landscape, you have we're talking about say strong narratives usually from these established organizations, media organizations, outlets. On the other hand, we are seeing probably the emerging of the platforms or media outlets from the global south, developing nations. Should we, in what way, global south countries can probably say, to help their media organization outlets to be, or their voice to be better heard internationally or beyond the borders, so we can strike a balance probably to whatever story there?
Well, I think two perspectives. One is we should not underestimate the voice of the people on the street. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, first. Second, there's all what you need to deliver your messages. Yeah? And coming back to the responsibility, yeah, and the necessary frameworks from the administration, from the government, when you spread your message as a small country like Thailand or Cambodia, and you have a message and you deliver this, then you will have receivers on the other side, in one way or the other. So, and coming back 20 minutes before, technology help on this point because this language gap is closed. Mm-hmm. So, and given the circumstances that we have not censorship, you can deliver your message. So, and in the quality of the delivery, I think there's a lever in the efficiency that your message find his target. So, and that's my perspective on this.
I just want to ask you, you're from Germany, the Western media, so to speak, Western perspective. Mr. Xu speaks of the global South. What is your understanding of the global South? How do you perceive it?
The
global South. What do you think about it?
Coming back to your question, at the moment in the West, the global South is not exist. The West, the Western perspective in the media is we are the leader of the free world. We are responsible for justice or whatever. In the background, there's always the big questions. How about the money? So, and the mainstream medias are supporting structures to deliver this message, and it's a tool in this power play. So, sorry to say, but it's a reality.
So, the global South.
So, and wait a moment. And my personal perspective and the experience in the last 5 years is that the Western societies are not able to reform, to change this perspective by their own. It needs some impact from the outside. In the most probably peaceful way, but powerful. Yeah. So, and on this point, you guys are responsible. Deliver your message that the Western part learn, and they have to learn a lot, that the world is changing.
So it's to take away the third world image.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I add?
Go ahead. I just want to ask you a question. Like, how important is the role of the media in the global South to produce a more inclusive, balanced international narrative?
Oh, definitely. I think we need to hear louder voices from media in the so-called global South. And I think one way to achieve that is to encourage more direct editorial cooperation among the media in this part of the world.
Let's also take a look at this latest technology, in particular artificial intelligence, Frederick, the application of AI in the media production. It's on the positive side, of course, it hugely enhanced the ability to produce. But at the same time, of course, people do have concerns of, in terms of fake news we mentioned earlier. Probably, you have to identify whether that's true or not. It's like a double-edged sword.
Well, it's always 5,000 years ago. So we typed characters in stones. Yeah. So 100 years ago we used typewriter. 40 years ago, so there was word processing. Now there are tools. Produce the text, more or less semi-automatic. So we have to welcome this development. So, and we have to learn to use on both sides, on the producer and on the receiver side. So, and it's a process of negotiation. So, on there, in the first development steps, there will be some failures and some scandals. So, but at the same time, it's our learning opportunities, and we have to learn, and then it's good. So, and coming back to your aspect, I think we have a lot of very, very successful pilots at the moment. When we take a look on the stage, there's Instagram as one competitor, and there's TikTok on the other side, and it's a serious competitor to Instagram. Congratulations. So, or take a look on CNN, on the competitors Al Jazeera.
Oh yeah.
So we have the platforms to exchange the perspectives. So the first wave of successful pilots are done. And on the AI, it's the same situation. There's open AI from the US perspective. And in the Western world, it's a more or less standard. On the Eastern and South world, there's DeepSeek. So, and perfect. And it's even better. It's cheaper. And it's free in access. So it's huge opportunity for the rest of the world to play this game on a higher level with better results. Welcome.
Can I
Yeah,
add on
have
to
chat.
this?
Go ahead.
My stand on the use of artificial intelligence has always been that go ahead, tried it. And our journalists at my organizations have been encouraged to use AI, but on the condition that you must be sure that you use AI not because it's a fad, or not because others are using it, so you have to do it too. You use AI only when you are certain that it can add value to your work of journalism. Last night we were at the Luyuan village, right?
Yeah.
And we could see with our own eyes how the story of this great philosopher of China, Confucius, dating back 1,000 years ago, was brought back to life with the help of artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And it was done in such a way that it was nothing short of amazing. So this is exactly a good example of how AI is utilized to enhance the values of your work. If not, then forget about it. There's no use for use AI if it cannot enhance the value of your journalistic work.
Is there a concern about, of course, AI break the barriers, of course, improving the easy access, just like technology. But on the other hand, is there a concern of, people say like open AI, and people say whether that is truly open or not. The concern of a tech, hegemony or dominance of AI instead of, consider, I guess, it's like a digital divide or the gap between, in terms of application or access to this technology, AI technology.
But the policy at my organization is that you use AI, including these large language model things, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, for example, but use it with a lot of caution. It should not replace the work of humans. That's the most important. That's the bottom line. You always use it with supervision, because you cannot trust these AI tools. Completely. I think that's a basic principle. It goes back to the basic of journalism. You don't trust anything wholeheartedly. You have to be cautious. You have to verify things before you go ahead with it.
I see another aspect additional to them, because it is this to discuss in the media industry. But the speed of technology development, especially with AI, fires back in the administration and in the education. And the question is more, maybe that's one of the aspects where media industry is faster than the regulations from the administration side.
Definitely.
Or in the education. So, and on this point, there is something where we should discuss in the societies.
I feel, for individuals, and this is what it's going to come down to, we have to decorporatize the media in particular, because it's going to decorporatize. It's going to be an individual that's going to be the broadcaster, the curator, the creator of content, an individual. And this is where it's important, as the minister spoke about, the education side of it. How do we educate people to use information, to accept it, to work with it? How is it? And it's going to be and it comes down to conscience, your conscience. I think AI is great, robotics great, but the human context, the human conscience is something that we should look at. I'm not saying it's all good or all bad, because as I explained in the beginning, it's all together. There's a yin and a yang.
Yeah.
It's the good and the bad together. And something that we'll always have. And to embrace the technology is,
at the moment we can't substitute creativity.
You can't.
So and this is our chance.
Right.
And it's what you put in to the intelligence.
Well, we touched upon, quite a number of topics related to the media, the global media landscape. But ultimately, our goal is clear. That is, we want to build a healthier media landscape in which probably have a more inclusive, diverse, and more balanced coverage of events or information flow. And what do we need to do in order to fulfill that kind of goal? I want each of you, as a summary probably of today's discussion, to share with us your thoughts. I'll start with the minister.
Yes, we need the responsible journalism and also responsible social media platform user to be sure that the information that we use is correct and the information that we split is credible and have the sources, and only the education on the media literacy, communication literacy, digital literacy. This is more important because all this kind of the technology is new for the human being. So reinforce the knowledge and strengthens the knowledge for the using of all this kind of the technology need to be implemented for the human being to be sure that everything is on the rising.
Responsibility, literacy of media technology. Yes. Bana, please.
Thank you. I'm going to read something from AI.
Go ahead.
If I may. It's headed under the closing vision towards harmonious discourse ecosystem. And it says we must move away from dominance to dialogue, from echo chambers to empathy, from data to wisdom. Let's honor diversity, not just in voices, but in formats, in languages, in platforms. Let us uphold inclusivity, not as a checkbox, but as a foundational principle. Let us embrace exchange, not as transaction, but as transformation. The Confucian ideal of great harmony calls for the world where everyone plays their part with dignity and mutual respect, not just a political vision. It's a media mission. Thank you.
Well said. Wisdom of AI.
I have to check. He's not an avatar? No. He's
I'm just a simulation.
Mr. Friedrich.
Yeah, I think one of the offers of media is to exchange different perspectives. And we discussed it, based on integrity, competence, and using the newest technologies. And then I think, we have a fair chance to improve the world.
Well said. Different perspectives, exposed to different perspectives. And
I think speaking from the point of view of the mainstream media, I think it's very, very important that in this fast-changing media landscape, with the proliferation of fake news, the echo chambers, things like that, it's very important that the mainstream media maintain the trust of the public. I think that's the key to its survival. I still believe in the long-term survival of the mainstream media. Of course, provided that they also make adjust themselves to understand and respond to the changing media landscape. I also have a quote from ChatGPT as well. I just a few days ago, I asked ChatGPT whether or not public broadcasting is still necessary or not in this fast-changing media world. He said, yes, we still need ChatGPT, AI still need to have public broadcasting, because at the end of the day, it still needs to have a source of credible information to copy from.
For sure.
Right. Sure. Absolutely. Well, on that note, we are coming to the end for today's discussion. Many thanks to our guests. You can also watch us on the CGTN app on YouTube. Thanks for being with us. I'm Xu Xinduo. See you next time.